Hi, my name is Peter, and I'm really excited to our brand new podcast we just started called Real Talk with Peter. And our motto is to bring in the information and professionals who could share their experiences from their past, who has the knowledge and wanted to provide a value for you to make a decision or which could help you lead the way to a financial freedom. And that's what we're here for. And today, as a guest, I have a Barney who's been in the real estate industry over 4 decades, started his license in 1986, practicing. He's been a mentor, he's been a coach, and he's seen all the markets with ups and downs. And we're today just wanted to share his knowledge with you so you feel how it's different than back then and how is it comparable now. So let's dig in.
First of all, it's my pleasure, and thank you for asking me. You mentioned I was licensed in 1986, and what we saw in the market back in 1986 to 1990 was very similar to the market that we had between 2015 through to 2022. We've gone through the downturn, 2022, where my downturn back then was 1989, where the market dropped about 30%. So we're very similar in timing and the length of market, that the market was great, and then when the market came down. So when we take a look at the 30% drop in 1990, everything changed. Buyers changed, sellers changed. It's actually when I became a real estate agent, because prior to that, I was an order taker. Everybody wanted to buy a house, and whoever wanted to buy, I was available, and sure, I'll take your order and I'll write up the offer, no problem. And it was that easy until 1989, 1990, where we saw a huge change, where I had 8 listings on the go, and I had sellers calling me every day saying, sell my house, I don't care where you're advertised, do this, do that, I want an open house every day. And I was going crazy. So I went to my broker and I said, listen, I think I'm getting out of the business because I can't handle this anymore. And he goes like, who's wagging whose tail? I said, what are you talking about? I said, my tail is between my legs so far. I said, this is nasty. And he goes, okay, I'm going to teach you something. And he did. It was really great. One of the biggest learning experiences that I learned was, as much as people, they're really concerned about their house getting sold, the sellers tend to want to tell you what to do. And my broker showed me that I actually had to change the role where I had to tell them what to do. So if you're looking at a seller saying, do this, do this, do this, my broker, Peter, at the time said, listen, I want you to go to the seller. I want you to bring 2 pieces of paper. And I want you to tell them that the market has dropped. We priced the house a little bit high because that's where the market was going. Now we're lower, but because we've even gone lower than that, we've got to reduce the price down to a price where it's going to sell. And I did that. So I went to each one. I told them, I said, look, we're going to need to reduce down to here. If you don't want to, I brought another piece of paper. It's called a mutual release. So if you don't want to do this, I'm sure I can sell your house, but I need your help. So we did the interview, and I think 7 out of 8 decided that they were going to reduce their price. And we ended up selling those 7. And I found out something really interesting. People don't like to be fired by their real estate agent.
It's funny. Well, we're what you mentioned back in the market, the order taker.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the market turned 30% down. I think we're seeing the same exact thing happening right now. And during a COVID, 2021 and 22, that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Buyers just wanted to get a home and they were just rushing, and we just put up a house for sale and it goes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden after 2022, now we're seeing that same trend almost by 30, 35%. And some markets has dropped as well.
Yes.
So in essence, what you're saying, it's no different than what back then. So how long did it take for the market to see the change, and what was the reaction on the sellers and the buyers at that time? Because we all talk about, buy in low market. For buyers, it's always an advantage. And for sellers, if it makes sense, you do then make a move. But what were the sentiments you saw when the downshift happened in buyers and sellers?
Exactly what happened in 1990 has happened in 2022. So what you see, and actually I'll just take it a little bit further, because in 2022, I was telling real estate agents in my office that I was training, and I was saying, listen guys, don't be going out and buying all kinds of houses, because there was a lot of pre-construction, etc. I said, don't be going on buying all kinds of stuff as an investment. I said, whenever you see double-digit increases, we saw double-digit in 2016, 17, it stopped in 17, went to 18, then 19 kind of went side. But 19, 20, 21, double-digit growth, whenever you see that, you have to be really careful, because that is a warning signal that the market can't sustain it. So in 1990, what we saw was that high interest rates, about 10.5%, 10%, but prices coming down 30%. It was a steep dive and then kind of mellowed out after that. In our market that we've just seen, it hasn't, yes, we saw the steep dive, but we kind of saw a little increase and we saw another dive, and now we are at the end of 2025 and our prices have come down to a real low there. So go back to 1990. What we were dealing with was first-time home buyers. If a first-time home buyer cannot afford to buy a house, the market collapses. And that's exactly what happened in 1990. Between 1986 and 1990, we had about 150% growth. So when you say that increase, there's got to be a drop at some time. There was a guy by the name of Wood Gundy that predicted that the market would drop 30%. And it exactly did what he predicted. And he was smart enough that he could see that happening based on the affordability of the first-time home buyer. So when we take a look at the interest rate back then in 1990, 10%, and then we saw the prices coming down. Once we started coming down and interest rates started coming down, we saw that the first-time buyers started coming back out of the market and starting to buy again. Now, that flat line that we had between 1990 and 1996, anybody that bought a house didn't lose out. What they ended up doing was they ended up paying down their mortgage over 5 years if they bought in 1990, and after 5 years, they've actually increased their equity. So today, we are at a point right now, I think if we take a look at an affordable house for a first-time home buyer, whether it's going to be a condo apartment or a condo townhouse, you can buy them under $600,000. Especially condo apartments. I think we're looking at the $200,000 to $300,000 range in some cases, and townhouses we can see anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 and higher, depending on the size. But the average, move-in first-time home buyer home, that's the price range. Now the question is, go back to 1990, 10% interest rates. Take a look at the interest rate today. Your interest rate is what, 3.5%?
3.5, yeah. We're still in threes, which is quite low. I remember when I bought my very first home in 1999, obviously the market was already starting to move and activities were happening. And I think the interest rate I paid was close to 10%, 8 point some change. And when we saw 7.5, and I was like, yay, 7.5% interest rate.
Exactly.
And now we're talking 3.5. It's still... People are looking, I know they're in 2021 and 22, they were just under 2% and close to 1.5%. But, and what buyers right now we notice is we can tell that yes, the prices are adjusted. We don't know if it's flattened yet. We're still yet to see. We're already 3 years out of the change, the shift that happened. But sometimes when we talk to first-time home buyers, which I know that get the market started, they still feel that market hasn't reached to the bottom. And they're trying to look for that moment, if it's the right moment to buy or not. It's a fear of, and back in COVID, a lot of activities were happening because buyers were driven by the fear of loss. They didn't want to miss out a home. that they thought they'd never be able to buy, but now it's a fear on the other side. If they buy it, will the equity or the money that they're going to put in, is it going to go down? So
yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because fear of missing out is the biggest factor, in my opinion, with buyers and with sellers. So when you take a look at a buyer making a decision, where is the bottom of the market? And if we take a look at it logically, analytically, we are very close to that. Number one, let's take a look at interest rate. The best interest rate that we could have possibly got, fixed rate for about 5 years, was what, 2.5%?
Yep.
I know on the variable you could go down as low as 1.7, 1.9, but about 2.5% was about the low. And if we take a look at today with 3.5-ish, 3.7, depending on where you shop, depending on where you go, depending on what advice you give to your buyer, you're looking at a situation that I think in 2026 is going to be, the prices have come down to a certain level and the interest rates have come down to a certain level. There's not a lot more room left to go down. We've actually come back down from 2022 high. We've come back down to 2019 prices. So if we're looking at 2019 prices, where are we? Can we still go down?
Yeah, some instance we were seeing the prices of 2018 now.
Yeah.
Some of the homes.
In some cases,
Yeah, in some cases, especially in this year.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Barney. What patterns now you're seeing, if you were to compare back in the market in 1989, 1990 versus now, what was the patterns that indicated, okay, is market starting to move up or in the recovery mode? And what are some of those pointers that, hey, we can keep an eye out based on your experience? Hey, if a market's trying to shift back up, maybe it's a time for us to see that we're seeing the bottom down and let's try to get in.
Okay. One of the things that was vastly different between now and 1990. In 1990, we had roughly 13 to 14% unemployment. Today, I think we see about 6% unemployment. Unemployment figures are kind of interesting, but as a realtor, I ignored that back in 1990 because I wasn't worried about the 13%. I was worried about the 87% that were gainfully employed, not worried about losing their job or anything like that. Yeah. And if you are in a position today as a buyer and you've got a good job, stability, you're not really worried about that you're going to lose your job, and we take a look at the interest rates the way they are, I think that the market and the way that people are employed, I don't think that the market is going to increase dramatically, but I can see that we could increase a little bit. We have noticed, I think, in the month of November or October that we've actually increased a little bit in some of the prices. So there's that little upturn that's happening that depends on whether that's going to continue in the first quarter of 2026. And that's going to be your key indicator. If we start to see that the buyers coming out of the market because they believe that the interest rates are good, that their jobs are good, that they're safe, I could see the first-time buyers coming out again. And I'll take it another little step, and that is that in 1990, I wasn't so concerned about buyers as much as I was trying to find people that wanted to move. So when I had a seller, and I did a lot of door knocking back at that time, and I had a broker that told me, don't worry about that 13%, worry about the 87, but here's what you want to do. Go and door knock and ask somebody if they're interested in moving. And if they say, no, I'm going to wait until things improve, take a look at how this is going to improve. So if I'm a first-time home owner and I own a townhouse, and I said, whoa, I really want to buy a house and I want to buy a nice detached house so I can not going to look into my backyard neighbor, or I'm going to do my barbecues, this, that, or whatever. You're going to find somebody that is interested in moving, but who is afraid to move. So there's that fear. The fear is that if I sell my house now and I buy another house, I'm not sure how that's going to work. The reality is is that the first-time home seller, that house is going to increase in the new coming market. I believe that the market will increase a little bit in 2026. So now, if I have a townhouse versus the house that I want to buy, which house is going to increase the most? So if I'm buying a 1700 square foot detached house and I'm selling a townhouse, my townhouse is not going to increase as much. So what I was able to do is say, hey, listen, you're going to wait for a better market. You're going to spend a lot more on a mortgage. So let's do this. Let's take a look at what your mortgage would be today if you sold your house versus what would it be if you sold it now. So now you've got a difference of maybe $200,000-$300,000 between a townhouse and a larger house. It's going to increase in value. I was able to portray that as an incentive, as a benefit. My benefit was being able to explain that to the seller, where if he waited, it's actually going to cost him more money. Equally, if you have a buyer that says, no, I'm going to wait more. Well, yes, you can wait, but if you bought your house today, but it increased 5%, and in 1996 through every year except 2008 up to 2015, real estate increased 5% every single year. So let's wait 2 years. All of a sudden your house that was 600 is now 660. Now, that's your townhouse. What about the house that you're buying at 800? That just went up to 880. There's a $20,000 difference. Depending on the house size that you want, and I've seen many people buy a lot larger houses than that, particularly if they had a legal basement apartment or something like that, that they could, lower the costs per month. You can end up buying a much bigger house, have a basement apartment that's rented, and there's a difference of now you're looking at 2,100 to 2,500 square feet, but your affordability is there because you can offset it by the rent that you're getting in the basement. And today, you're getting $2,000 a month for a basement apartment. So if you were looking at moving up into a market like today, this is the best time to do it.
Yeah, look, we talk to sellers every day, and the concerns exactly what you mentioned, that they face that, and we talk about the difference that you really want to get into, if that makes sense financially for you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, yes, it's a big emotional decision for all the sellers and the buyers. But you always got to sit down and look at the numbers if it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Now, a question I have, I wrote it down, was, when sellers needs to focus on the market that feels uncertain. So it's uncertainty that sometimes stops from a seller making that move, feel that if they put it up, they may not get the price that they want, which as a real estate agents, we don't control it. It's a market and that controls it. How do you think they should position themselves to be in a better position in the current market so they can take advantage of this situation in their favor?
Yeah. The biggest thing that I've seen in the market like that is that people are afraid to make decisions because they don't have all the information. If you're a good realtor and you know all your facts and figures and your numbers, you should be able to sit down with your client, basically point out to them that this is the value of your house. And my biggest thing about sellers is that the biggest mistake that sellers make is that they say, I will do this if I can get this. Well, it's not about what you want. It's the market that dictates the price of your house. The market dictates the saleability of your house. And I've learned a long time ago, the best house at the best price sells first. It's that simple. It really is that simple. But sellers make the biggest mistake by saying, I want to do that, but I need this. No, it's not about what I need. It's what can I do and what's going to position me for my future and the future of my family. So if you're talking to somebody who is very family oriented, is really paying attention to the market, knows their numbers, and there's always that type of person that has that, once you explain to them that if they are looking after the best interests of their usually young family, and you're looking at the kids that they have or the kids that they want to have, and what they want as far as a goal, you have to get into that with the seller And if they're not willing to get into that, you can't really help them the way that you want to.
Yeah.
But if you sit down with them, you explain point by point what your house is worth today, what you're going to get if you waited 2-3 years, what would happen if you were to move now rather than move later, you're going to see the difference in probably $100, $200, maybe $1,000 as far as a mortgage is concerned. How long does it take to pay that off? A long time.
Yeah, well, a lot of my appointments right now are focused on their long-term goal.
Yes.
It's not a short-term goal. So as a realtor, when we do meet, is our goal is, where do you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be real estate. My conversation is always about, what is your financial goal? Where you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
What are you looking to get out of it? Is the real estate could be one of the vehicle to get you there. If you're looking for financial freedom, hey, let's talk numbers. How are we going to get there?
Yeah.
Can we leverage the real estate or can we not? And just those are the conversations that we're having.
And that's what we're there for.
And exactly. Now, buyers, on the other hand, are hesitating to jump in, as we touched base earlier as well. Now, what do you feel that as a buyer, why it's an advantage for them to get into the market now versus to wait?
I would have to take a look at this in similar way to the seller making a decision. We need to take a look at a buyer. What is the situation of the buyer? And we have to have that interest of, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the questions that I would have for a buyer would be, number one, are you renting? Are you living at home with your parents? What is your situation right now? Gainfully employed? What is your family? What do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Are you looking, if you just recently got married, are you looking at having children? I find a lot of buyers make a lot of mistakes based on what they want to do today. And many times I sat with buyers and said, look, I can sell you this condo if you want. However, you just got married. Are you going to have children in the next 5 years? And they go, yeah. Well, you don't want to buy a 1 or 2 bedroom condo apartment. You probably want to take a look at a townhouse. Yes, it might cost you some more, but the bottom line is going to be, you don't have to sell your condo to move into your townhouse, just so that you're going to be able to get the house that you need within 2 years. It does not make sense to do a short term. Again, we're talking about time. And we see that in 2 years, if we sold your condo, how much would that have gone up in 2 years? Now subtract some of the costs that it takes to move. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to introduce you to this townhouse where, if you need to stay for 5 years, whether you need to stay there for 10 years, the bottom line is, in 10 years, after you bought this townhouse, what is your mortgage like in 10 years? And what is the value of that house in 10 years? Now what you've got is a stepping stone, because 5 to 10 years can make a huge difference in what the value of your house is and how much you've paid down on your mortgage. So now, can you make that step up to that more of a dream home that you wanted? The townhouse might not be the dream home, but it's a stepping stone. And my dad taught me a long time ago, get a hold of inflation by buying something. And if you're buying a house, you just stopped inflation. And you go from there. So it's a situation where the buyer understands that rather than renting, it doesn't make sense to be paying rent when I can be paying a mortgage, and I'm going to decrease my mortgage over time. You said it. It's not a short term. It's a longer term commitment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what if you waited 2-3 years from now and the market went up? You can't save money fast enough to offset the cost of increase of real estate. At least not the last 20 years.
You tell me about that. Bills get bigger, then the saving grows. So that it's, as the kids grows and as the expenses grows, that's how I see it.
Absolutely.
And when we see money in the bank, we buy things to leverage, to feel good about it.
Yeah.
But we don't look at it, the saving side of it or the long-term side of it.
Yeah.
So that's why saving is always always a challenge. Well, for me, I'm not sure for most out there, but that's what usually I see it. Now, in terms of emotions, back in, as I said, the down market when buyer's emotions and seller emotions. Can you relate? How do you speed? Like, how does it repeat in every cycle? Like, I think it's pretty much the same sentiments. But have you seen any different than back then and now, or?
Emotions are always involved. And realistically, it doesn't matter what kind of market. The reality is this, that emotions get really stretched anytime anybody is making a decision about buying their first time home. The emotions are extremely high. My issue is that when it comes to emotions, let's say you're dealing with a first-time home buyer and you've explained everything out to them, and the next thing you know is they went to their friend and they say, I'm thinking about buying a house. Oh, you don't want to buy a house right now because this and this and this and this. And emotionally, they get sidetracked. Should I be listening to my real estate agent? Should I be listening to my friend? And we see that no matter what. Right? So when we take a look at emotions and when we're looking at the first-time home buyer back in 1990 through the 1996, I can tell you in 1986, people were afraid of missing out. There were people that were just lining up trying to buy houses. And that was crazy because the fear of missing out, I'm never going to be able to buy a home. That same thing happened actually in 2015. From 2015 through to 2000, real estate increased so dramatically that people were buying, even though they couldn't afford it, they were finding ways of buying a house. And here's the difference. The market's increasing, the prices are increasing like crazy, and people are doing whatever it takes to buy the house. Now, all of a sudden, the market's changed, and all of a sudden, the emotions are, oh, I don't know if I should buy a house. Oh, the interest rate, I don't know if it's coming down. And it's like, oh, maybe I should wait. Maybe I should do this. And they're asking here, they're asking there. Everybody except the professional. The professional is the guy, you, me, that are basically going to give facts, numbers, going to be able to show people that this is what happened in the market previously. This is where you could be today if you did this. So emotionally, I always saw that people were more afraid to do anything because they didn't really know what to do. Our job as real estate agents, educate them, and when it's time to make that decision, a very gentle little push for them to make the right decision. Now, always, and I've always had this, if somebody just all of a sudden breaks and says, no, I don't want to do this, slow down. Take it easy. I'm not here to push you. I just believe this is the right move for you. If you don't, I can't help you.
Yeah.
And there's many times where there's first-time home buyers where you just have to say, if you're not ready, that's fine. Maybe we can revisit this in 3 months. Maybe, you decide what you want to do and we'll go from there. Not a pushy agent. I know you're not either. Through experience, I know that.
Well, look, I always talk about it's knowledge is power, and power builds confidence.
100%.
And when it's too much information,
yes,
that's feeding from bad sources.
Yes,
it blurs your vision, not where you want to get to. So,
yeah,
it's buyers that we always talk and say, look, you gotta have the right information for you to make an informed decision to move forward or not. And what are you looking to get out in the long term? And if you're ready to commit for the long term, what could be the benefits? And then by weighing those options, you make the call. And that's exactly what, that's why we go to a professional, we go to a doctor. We don't go to anybody and say, hey, I'm having these issues. We need to go to a doctor to get that fixed, right? Not ChatGPT or other sources and get cured by ourselves, right?
Well, let me make another point, and this is one thing I've noticed as well. We've got a lot of inventory on the market. And to me, the more choice that somebody has, the less they make a decision. That's a weird thing to say. But when you have so much choice and there's so much available, people just kind of go, whoa. There's too many, there's too much, I'm not making a decision. When there's no choice, people make decisions right away. It's crazy. I really can't explain that.
Yeah. Barney, share this with me and any experience that you've seen and back then, people who made the decision to jump into real estate, even when they saw the opportunity in down market, how did they where were they 5 or 10 years later?
Yeah.
If any experience that comes to your mind, if you'd like to share.
Absolutely. I'll use myself.
Yeah.
The first house I ever bought was in 1981 or 1982. Can't remember exactly. But I can tell you that I bought a stacked townhouse for $59,000. It was on Brahms Grove, 2170. Can't remember the unit. But I remember that interest rates back then were 18.5%.
Wow.
And I think the seller paid the mortgage down by 4%. I think we got a 14.5% mortgage. And that was my first home. I was actually renting at the time, but I did that as an investment because I knew that real estate was a great investment. So that's before I ever got into real estate. I got into real estate in 1986.
Yes.
So let's take a look at that move. I'll say this much. I sold that house and I ended up buying a semi-detached home. And from the profits of that, I bought the semi. But let's take a look at the value of that house today. We've gone through 1981. We went through an increase from 1986 to 1990 by about 150%. Then we kind of flatlined to 1990, 1996. Then we saw the increase other than the year 2008, which was a nothing year, went up 6%, came down 6%, or down 6, up 6. And then right through to 2015, through the same market that we went through in 1986, from 2016 through to 2022, same market, virtually the same. And today, if I take a look at that market, which even 2022, we've come down at least 30, 35%, that house still today is worth somewhere around $500,000, $550,000. $59,000 versus 550, that's a 10-time return. And I would say that anybody who bought back in 1986 through to 1990, or even between 1990 and 1996, you're almost looking, maybe not 10 times, but I'd say at least 7 or 8. So if you're a first-time home buyer and you're listening to this, where is the bottom of the market? And are you really concerned about it, or should you be thinking long-term? And what's the interest rates? Look at mine, 14.5, but back then 18.5, and today you got a 3.5% mortgage? What are you, crazy? This is a phenomenal time. And I think that if you're in a position where you save some money, can utilize your RRSPs if you wish, TFSAs that many people have used, and you take a look at the kind of money that you can use as a down payment, and if you're married or have another spouse or partner that you're working with, and you've got 2 incomes, I'm sorry, the time is now.
Well, look, I tell buyers, the first-time buyers, so you paying a mortgage anyway.
Yeah.
It's not yours, it's somebody's. So
if you're renting,
you're paying somebody's mortgage. Yeah. So it's if it's not yours, it's somebody else. It's someone else is getting rich.
Well, take a look at a townhouse. Normal townhouse, $500-$600. How much are you paying? $2,500 a month?
Yeah, exactly.
I rest my case.
Yeah, so there you go. So it totally makes sense. And that's why, as we said, it's looking at it, the savings and the mortgage payouts. It'd probably be a lot more if you look at 2 years down the road, the principal that you'll pay off on that mortgage. And talking about the $59,000 condo, the townhouse that you bought turned into almost $600,000.
Yeah.
It was not even $60,000 that you invested. You probably invested 20% of that, maybe $12,000. So if you look at your own investment.
No. Back then, 10% down.
So there you go. $6,000 turned into $600,000. That's, you do the math.
Not too shabby.
You do the math, right? And somebody else paid for it.
That's correct.
Right? You never had to work. You could do anything else.
Yeah.
But look, it's a great chatting, Barney. I really, I hope our audience got a lot of information out of it. It's honor to learn from decades of experience that you shared and the knowledge. I'm always blessed to have you around and share the wisdom and keep us on the track. And that's our motto of our podcast, to provide a value. Like, it's a decision that you have to make. We're just there to give you that information that could help you make that decision. The step you have to take. So we're here to assist. Just talk to your professionals and know more about it. See if it's a time for you to make that move. Till next time, if you like it, share, subscribe to this channel. Until next time, we'll provide you some more information with other professionals that we deal with to get you that knowledge.